I'm Gold Derby News and Features editor Ray Richmond, and I'm welcoming Steve Saklad from the Lionsgate feature, Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret, to our film production designers Meet the Experts panel. Steve, your film that's based on the classic Judy Blume novel is set in 1970. What are your own memories from that time that you were able to draw on?
Oh, well, I'm a lucky one because I turned 14 in 1970. So I have not quite as young as Margaret, who was 11 in the movie, but almost as young memories of uh, our suburban upbringing. I grew up in suburban Connecticut and suburban Philadelphia, which was a great matchup for the world of Margaret. We would drive into New York City in the 60s and 70s, 60s and early 70s. And I had a sense memory of what it felt like to walk those Greenwich Village streets and take it all in as a child takes it in. I had two Jewish grandmas. I was raised Jewish, so touching the core of who she was and what her Upper West Side apartment should look like was very familiar to me. It felt very at home. And there were all sorts of ways that, though I'm not an 11-year-old girl, I could very much dial into to the world that Judy Blume first created, and then Kelly Fremont Craig, our writer-director, sort of turned into the feature world. Kelly did an amazing job because she actually enlarged the story to include Margaret's mom, Margaret's grandmother. We got generational views on the relationship between a mom and a daughter as they sort of go through huge changes in each other's lives. So I think Kelly found a way for folks my age, folks in their 40s, folks in their 70s to all connect to the story of Margaret growing up, which is sort of juicy.
I've seen, Steve, in past interviews with you where you're talking about matching the personalities of the girls and the women with various color and textural palettes for the look of the interiors and furnishings, which I found fascinating. I mean, is that usually the production designer's job?
Well, the production designer's job is really to make the story as clear to the audience as you possibly can. And what are the tools we've got to do that with? We've got architecture, we've got color, we've got the nuance of set decoration, we've got props, and we've got lighting, which sort of colors everything we do. So every tool is really useful to sort of say, who are each of the people who built the world that we're looking at? How many choices did the mom make in Margaret's bedroom, and how many choices did Margaret herself make? Margaret's an only child, but then we meet Nancy Wheeler, who lives a more upper class suburban life. And we believe her mom had a decorator who made a foofy 8-year-old's bedroom, 3 years earlier than our story. And now poor Nancy is stuck in this 8-year-old's bedroom of chiffon and ruffles and lavender and other things that she detests now. So to use the color palette and use our history that we're giving to Nancy and her relationship with her mom informs every choice we make in that bedroom. And when Nancy wants to rebel against this stricture of what she grew up with, we have pops of orange and sort of acidic chartreuse added to the palette that her mom had devised. And we have her images of Twiggy on the wall, or Jean Shrimpton, these great models of the late 60s, which would have been Nancy's templates for how she wants to grow up. So we get to sort of touch who she is with the color, the specifics of the images, the idea that behind a neat dust ruffle is all the crap that Nancy stuck that she doesn't want her mom to see. So all of that goes into sort of forming that world. And I'm a theater trained designer. So for me, the best way into each of these spaces is to sit down with a roll of onion skin and sketch it. And there might be a few other folks on the panel today who also have that as their background. For me, I think there's nothing more strong a training than to have sort of faced the script as a theater designer. And there are no other people. There's just you to choose the color, the decor, the details, the props. So I think to sort of sit down with those ideas in my head and the onion skin and my markers and my inks and find my way to a design, share with the director, share with the DP and my decorator, and get feedback and adjust it, is the best possible way to sort of get everybody on the same page. And if we are together on here's what it feels like to walk into that space from this sketch, then I think we'll have a great, opening of the set when the director and the DP come in and start their work.
Well, I love the detail-oriented nature of how you approach your job. How did you go about creating the diverse looks, Steve, of, for instance, Margaret's suburban family home in New Jersey, her Jewish grandma Sylvia's apartment in New York City, while you're shooting in Charlotte, North Carolina?
Yeah, Charlotte, North Carolina turned out to be this great, juicy source that had not been exploited by movie companies much before. They had superb crews that we sort of got the A-class crew when we got there in the middle of a pandemic. I felt very taken care of by my team, who was almost all local. And we had a pretty great match for suburban New Jersey all over Charlotte. We had lots of choices for those various homes, and we had, we could exploit a split level for Margaret. We could exploit a traditional colonial for Nancy Wheeler. We had a host of other houses that showed up in bits and pieces over the seasons that the movie depicts. But we had a real struggle finding New York City in Charlotte, as you might imagine. We actually found one street that worked as a commercial street that was a half hour outside of Charlotte for our main exterior, where we want to sell the sort of West Greenwich Village life that Margaret enjoys before she moves to New Jersey. And for the Upper West Side apartment for Sylvia, the grandmother, who's lived there for 40 years, Charlotte offered a bland, beige, drywall apartment that was several rooms to it, to which my team came in and we built the pilasters, the framed panels of wallpaper, the color palette, the French doors, the years and years of decor that Sylvia has brought to that space, all of her evidence of her travels to Europe and the Far East. The ketubah, which was the marriage covenant of her husband, who's passed away in the story. The Hadassah tin box that every Jewish grandmother of a certain age had, where you would put in your quarters to grow trees in Israel. Well, that Hadassah tin box had to be made and set there just so on the mantle. So we sort of started from 0 and went to 100 to create the world of Sylvia in that apartment.
You also got to turn Charlotte into Greenwich Village in 1970. I mean, that just had to be such a tremendous kick. Public phone booths in Greenwich Village, hippie folk singer flyers, a bakery and a barbershop and a pizzeria, and also the Port Authority bus terminal. That had to just be so much fun.
It was so much fun. I moved to New York officially in 1980. So I'm about 10 years too late for my real memories of living in Greenwich Village as a resident. But we came to New York. We saw Broadway shows as we were growing up. We drove into the city, and we had this really vivid memory of the kind of the smell, the noise, the sweet smell of pot, hovering along the streets. It was not dangerous in a way, but it was very exotic to somebody who'd been raised in the suburbs. So we wanted to get that exoticism on screen. What you saw in the finished movie was about 4 facades that were completely signage, decorated awnings, neon, all the set dressing, the public payphones, the cars, the cast of extras in their fantastic Anne Roth clothes, which nothing is going to put you in the right time and place better than what Anne Roth can costume her extras with. And then we had to set extend for everything beyond those 4 facades. We had a reverse, which was okay, but looking up and down the street, that was set extension to research that we had provided the visual effects team of which streets in Manhattan in 1970 we were using.
What was the biggest design challenge you faced for doing this film? Would it have been making it Greenwich Village or something else?
The juiciest day, the one that we were sort of planning the hardest and the longest for, was actually those 10 minutes of Pirates of Penzance that happens in the Delacorte Theater in Central Park, for which we placed in an empty parking lot in the middle of Charlotte a pie piece of the bleachers that the audience sat on, and then a half-round disc platform of the stage. There were some real trees directly behind the stage that we could exploit, and then everything else was green screened to comp in Central Park and the castle and the banks of theater lighting on grids on trusses on either side that would light the stage. But my gosh, I got to do a a 19th century Gilbert and Sullivan operetta. So we had white models. We did everything like a theater designer would do. We had the white model, which was approved. We had the digital sort of models to show the DP and so forth. And then we got to bloody well build and paint a traditional engraving laden theater set. And my theater training all came in full swing, and it was like no day was happier than the day we got to watch start the playback and watch that team of dancers and singers sort of perform that number 25 times.
How terrific. We're going to wrap things there. Steve Saklad, good luck to you this coming award season. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret, starring Abby Ryder-Fortson, Rachel McAdams, and Kathy Bates, is available to stream over numerous platforms. Thanks for joining us today at Go Derby.
Great, thanks.